So for our coverages this week, we're going to look at 3 by 1. And when I say 3 by 1, that means we have three receivers to one side. So again, if we see three guys up past the tackle, that can either be a tight end, a slot, or a true trips look. These are our coverages that we're going to run. And the three we're going to look at today are stress, stump, and stubby. Stress and stump play just like our sky and our cloud look, and stubby just a variation on it. So first of all, we have stress. Stress, when we hear stress, we're going to think sky. We've addressed that if we hear an S call at the start of our coverage, that tells our safeties that they can be a little more aggressive in the run fed if need be. So, again, stress just continues that piece. For stress, what we're doing again is playing our sky coverage. So, it's the exact same rules. Cornerback, you have all of number one, right? Number one up, in, out, and vertical. If he goes underneath, that's the one time when you don't have to be as quick to trigger on that because you probably have something coming vertical against you. But again, really, you have all of number one in our coverage. On this alignment, they have you at 8 yards. We're going to line you more at our standard 6, but depending on down and distance, we can play you back. We can play you up close. We discussed that press coverage last week where you can be aligned in a 1 by 1 in cloud. Excuse me, in a man up, a 1 yard back. We can do that same look here. So it's not as important that we worry about this 8 yard depth. Again, we're going to start at 6, but we want you inside eye. And again, we have you playing our regular sky rules. So number one, everything that he can do except for back, he is your responsibility. Sam, you have the same responsibility. You are 6 yards off inside eye of number two, and you are taking all of number two up and out, right? If he goes up, you're going to carry with him. Our safety, right, is probably going to be supporting you unless they go double verts out of 2 and 3. If he goes out, you take him. If he goes in, you're making a push call and we're pushing him. So when we saw two receiver sets, we always said where number 2 and number 3 was. Those were our push alerts. Same thing as here. Mike, you are still responsible for number 3. So why we call this stress is because we're stressing our sky coverage over further to the left. So Mike, typically you are going to be set to are you going to be stacked over this tackle. But in this situation, we flipped the front, hence why the tackle's here. But now you are outside hip of this defensive end. Why? Because number 3 is all the way over here. So you still have number 3, right? That's our base rules. But again, we're expecting on a push call that Sam, you may be taking number 2, or excuse me, number 3. Mike, you are taking number 2. Will, you have the 2 weak on the backside, just like before. He just happens to be set to this side. Corner, you have standard sky rules. Again, if we receive these receivers wide, we're calling sky safeties. In this situation, if there's 3 receivers on one side, they're not going to be as far apart as our standard sky call. But if there's 3 or more yards between each of these guys, we're going to call this our standard sky call safety, or again, we're going to call it stress. So if the corner calls sky, right, and we happen to see 3 receivers on one side, sky and stress are the same thing. We're just moving everybody over. Will, you are lined up on the center for your alignment rules based on this. Again, Mike, you are outside hip. Again, for number 3 here. Sam, you are inside eye of number 2 at 6 yards. Again, playing your standard sky rules. Corner, you are inside eye of number 1. Safety, again, you're identifying first if you're on the trip side between number 2 and 3 who's going vertical. That's the one that you want to help the closer they are inside. So if both 2 and 3 ran verts, you want to help on 3. If 3 does anything else, shoot your eyes to number 2 because more than likely he's coming on a vertical route over the top. So that is our stress sky coverage. Again, how we play sky against a 3 by 1 defense. Here's another way to see stress for visual pieces if that's something you want to look at. And our first adjustment is stump. So stump is when our number 2 and number 3 receivers are close, right? That's going to be almost like our cloud call, right? But stump tells our defenders that, okay, we're expecting number 2 and 3 because they're close together. We expect there to be some kind of cross route. So first of all, we want to be communicating, hey, push, 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 right, between our 2 and 3 receivers. But to help with this, we're going to align the nose outside, or actually we're going to align the Sam. They have it called as a nickel here, but we're going to have our Sam aligned outside of the number 2 receiver. Why? Because if this cross route happens, now you have a better angle to pick up number 3. Corner, you have the same responsibilities. It's called mess, man except short. Basically, it's sky calls. In this example, they have you playing up tight. We don't need to have you up this tight necessarily. Again, depending on down and distance, just know that in stump, you have your basic sky responsibilities. Everyone else are Nose and Mike and Sam. You are now playing Cloud. So again, we're anticipating there to be some type of cross here. So on our push, Nickel would take, or Sam would take number three, Mike would take number two, and then our safety is looking to see, okay, well, which of these receivers is running vertical route? That's who I want to help with in those situations. If number two happens to stay on his vertical path, well, knows we want you outside leverage on him anyhow. We want you to keep him inside. We call this a wall two technique. There's basically a wall here, and you want to do everything that you can to keep the number two receiver from going out, right? So this is just a way for us to get there. So stump, corner, you have the same responsibilities as you would in stress or sky. Nickel, you are outside of number two. And again, you play number two if he goes vertical past 5 yards, or if he happens to break to the outside, you take him. If he goes inside, you're passing him off to our safety and our Mike because number three is probably coming here. Mike, you have number three until he goes out. So if he goes vertical or in, you take him. Once he goes out, you're expecting number two to be on the inside. And again, safety, you're just playing whoever is our vertical threat in this situation. Just note, Nickel, that there may be some situations where if they go double verticals here, you may be uncapped. And all that uncapped means is that the safety is going to help on the number three receiver first if they both go vertical. So you just have to know that you cannot get beat deep, especially because now you are uncapped in this situation. The last one is Stubbie, okay, special or Stubbie. What changes in special and Stubbie? The only thing that changes between that and stump is that now cornerback, we want you uptight. Uptight. It says Meg. That's man everywhere he goes. So under sky rules, right? If the number one receiver goes back, you don't take him. In this situation, you're taking him no matter where he goes. You're playing man on him regardless. So Stubbie is our way of getting it. The reason why they call this Stubbie is we're basically cutting off the number one receiver. We're saying corner, you got him. This way, these guys only have to worry about the number two and number three receivers on this side. So again, Stubbie is our one adjustment. So stress is our sky coverage set to a three receiver side. We're just stressing our defense over a gap. Again, inside eye, technically inside eye, but you're more concerned about aligning off that outside hip of the defensive end. Safety at his standard 10 on the hash, backside safety 10 on the hash, corner 6 inside eye. Will aligned in a zero. Sometimes we may set the front to the trip, sometimes away. Again, depends on what is an offense trying to do to us in that situation. Stump is our adjustment to stress. Now we're just telling the nickel, all right, you're playing outside of the number two, right? We're expecting, because 2 and 3 are tight, we're expecting a cross route. We're going to call stump in this case. And then Stubbie is our way of telling the cornerback it's just like stump for everybody else, but now corner, you got number one. Okay, you're on an island with him. He's out of the play. We're cutting him off. Hence why we call that a Stubbie look. Here's a video that explains this stuff a little more in depth if you got time. Otherwise, this video will get you all caught up for on Tuesday.